evening. The regular meeting of the Indianapolis Public Library Board of Trustees is now called to order. Ms. Angie Gilbert, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Lane,
Approve? I mean, here. Sorry. I'm already ready to go. Let's go.
Fast meeting.
That's good.
Dr. Murtada. I'm not sure if I should say approve. Present. Dr. Palacio.
I'm present.
Ms. Tribble
Present.
and Dr. White.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
The chair recognizes a quorum. Good evening and welcome everyone to our first NDPL board meeting of 2024. As we begin the new year, I want to say thanks again to our entire NDPL team, staff, librarians, board, foundation, and patrons for your individual and collective contributions to the successes of 2023. Nelson Mandela said, "I never lose. I either win or I learn." And I'm very excited about building on our wins and learnings in 2024. Board highlights for the coming year include the launch of our strategic planning process, which represents the opportunity to develop and outline the next strategic goals for our library, a focused review and update of library policies, and continuing board development to strengthen governance in ways that support and enhance library culture and climate. There are so many exciting things to look forward to this year. We have the grand opening of the new Glendale branch in a couple of months. We also have currently underway major renovations at Pike and Nora. All of these physical enhancements that put our patrons' experience at the center. Next month, NDPL will kick off some of our annual traditions. For the 36th year, Indianapolis Public Library's African American History Committee will celebrate a host of prominent local African American artists at one of our signature events called Meet the Artists. This year, the Meet the Artists Gala and opening reception on February 17th coincides with the National Basketball Association's All-Star Game, also hosted in downtown Indy, just blocks away from our central library. NDPL is part of the vibrant Indianapolis community, and we are a leader in presenting the public with important events and exhibits alongside our diverse library collection, all free and all open to everyone. And we have rich resources in the network of branches from which we make these offerings. And as we continue rotating board meetings around the city this year, we will see the uniqueness of our branches and the dedicated teams who work to support and enhance our community assets and provide services and diverse collections of material tailored to our patrons. It's a great opportunity for our board to visit the different corners of our organization, learn from the staff and its patron, and to deepen connections and knowledge of each branch and community. It is so wonderful to be here at the Decatur branch, and we're grateful to the staff for the warm welcome tonight. It's cozy in here, but it makes it homey, and just want to thank everyone for hosting this meeting. Now I'd like to introduce our branch manager, Ms. Dorian Smither. She will report on the Decatur branch, its librarians and staff, the facility, the community, and the service. Welcome, Ms. Smither.
Before I say anything else, I want to agree, it is cozy in here. Big shout out to all the people who arranged all the furniture and everything. I can say that because I had absolutely nothing to do with it, but they worked really hard with all of their planning and their logistics, so pretty exciting. President Tribble, members of the board, and other guests, welcome to the Decatur Branch Library. I am Doreen Smither. I'm the branch manager. Decatur Township was the first township outside of Center Township to receive a branch library. The Marwood branch opened in a storefront in 1967, and this building opened as the Decatur branch in 1990. 30-plus years later, we're excited to be moving up toward the top of the building project list. I came to this branch at the very end of 2019, and 2.5 months later, we were all closed due to COVID. It was an unprecedented time for everyone, but I was fortunate, as a new branch manager here, to have a well-seasoned staff. This top row of Decatur staff represents a total of 125 years of Indianapolis library service. From left to right, there is Ashley Luna, our CERC supervisor, me, Julie Quebe, a library assistant 3, Maureen Beasley, library assistant 2, Jason McNeil and Sharon Sloan, both pages. The newspaper that Jason is holding is this very newspaper from 2005 with a front page story about his participation in the RISE School to Work program. And he's here still 20 years later. Of the 6 top line people, only Ashley was not here during COVID. She was in the system, but not here. The bottom row of people adds another 9 years of library service at Indy. We have Lacey Strahan, library assistant 2, Jennifer Cooper, PSA, Rachel Wiesner, our public services librarian, and Constantine King, our computer assistant. She's not here now, but I want to give a shout out to Lacey for the wonderful display case in the lobby. I bought Peter at Kohl's, one of those care toys, and I asked her if she could create a 3D page from the snowy day, knowing full well that she not only could, but would. And she did. So if you didn't catch it on your way in, make sure you see it as you leave, because it's simple but wonderful. This is a quick look at some of our demographics and what they mean for our services. The area is growing more diverse. As you can see, the majority of people in our area speak only English, but we do have both Spanish and French material in our world collection. 12% of our population have no computer or internet. We have 8 public PCs plus the accessible station and an express computer, and they get a steady use, but they're never overwhelmed with people waiting. The biggest tech service help we give is printing, both from our computers and mobile printing, and I think that makes sense given that statistic of 12% of no computers at home. And even the people who have computers at home come in and say, well, they have the computer, but they don't have a printer, or their printer's out of ink, or, it's the printer part. And today, we got my PC. There was a little bit of a glitch at the beginning, but we are anticipating that will make printing much easier. It doesn't have, it won't require loaner USBs, and we're really excited to see that in action. A few other trends that we're starting to see increase are tutors and students meeting here, supervised visits, and students using the quiet room. We have some regulars who book the room for study and other reasons. The most unusual, I think, is the man that comes about every week or so to practice his violin. He's good, too. Sometimes we open the door and listen. We offered 179 programs last year and had a total of 3,384 participants. We offer all the PDA programs, and we have our own weekly story times. We had a very successful summer reading kickoff, which included a program with a balloon solar system informational component, including a balloon rocket. Unfortunately, I don't think I have a balloon rocket picture. We had face painters, crafts, and a story time with firefighters. We have Pause to Read every month, and we're a seed library branch, which is really popular here. We've had Medicare programs. We've had a Marion County Health Department vaccine clinic, a week-long civil rights tabling event, and some cooking programs that were very tasty. I ate kale, and I liked kale. It may have been a one-off. But now I'm going to say something that I think you probably don't hear very often, and this may be actually shocking to you. We are trying to increase our teen numbers. We're in a very unusual situation here in that we're right next door to a high school, but we don't have the issues that some of the other branches have, and I have no idea why that is so. But I think that one reason is the dismissal time of our high school. It's very late. It's almost 4 o'clock. And I think by that time of day, the kids are just ready to go home. And also possibly the parents are willing to let their kids go home and be home alone because there's a shorter time. At any rate, we're trying to attract more teen patrons. So we've begun a teen advisory group, and we now have a game cart that they can play games in the library. That includes games that they recommended. The teen group is small but loyal. There was even a recent Facebook post on the Decatur Township chat page by one of our teens who said if there were any other teens on that Facebook page, that she was urging them to come to the library for tag days to have input in what we plan for teens. And next month, Lacey's wonderful display comes out, and a teen is going to be putting her Hello Kitty display in. And these are baby steps, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction with that. One more. So I have one more thing to share. Last year, we got some really exciting news. The family of a former teacher, Decatur Township teacher, approached the foundation wanting to make a donation to the library to benefit the children of Decatur Township. The teacher's name was Nancy Vargas. And we were able to do a bit of daydreaming and come up with a concept for the children's area. However, as I said earlier, we are on the building project list. We are on the building project list. Is that not right, Adam? Okay.
He's outside.
He's hiding.
Yes.
And it seemed a shame to do some sort of wonderful remodel and then possibly lose it when we remodel the whole building. So the family has since provided an endowment to benefit all the children in Marion County, but I believe some of that money is still earmarked for our children's area, and the planning and the dreaming for that was a great deal of fun. We're really looking forward to being at the very top of the remodel. Adam. Hi, Adam.
No pressure.
That is my report. Thank you very much. Could I answer any questions?
Well, thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of the entire board, and we will open it up, and I'll ask board members if you have questions to raise your hand so that I can recognize you in order.
Just want to say how very brilliant the idea is to have a teen advisory group. Absolutely brilliant, because they can tell you what's needed, and they can also tell you what they don't want.
That's correct. And that's happening in various branches and through the system. But yes, that's the Dropbox. That's on my list for when we remodel. They have strong opinions, but it's also, I think, important to remember that they're not a homogeneous group. So what one group of teens want is not necessarily what all groups. So it's always a challenge, but we like our teens.
I just want to say that 3 of us up here are on the facilities committee, so we're going to make sure that this renovation.
Thank you. And you said it in front of witnesses.
Okay,
That's good.
I have it on camera. It's on tape.
That's right.
Adam, you have a few minutes to think about what you're going to say, right? He's very good. Are there any other questions, or Dr. Palacio?
Thank you. How many teens do you have right now coming in daily average, and then what's the goal?
I don't know that there's a daily average, but for example, today there were probably a couple of groups and they each had 3 or 4. Every once in a while, the basketball team comes in here and hangs out just until it's time to go back to school. One of the first times they came in, they all went to the children's area I mean, they want to be grown-ups, right? But they all went to the children's area. And it's not that we have a rule about anything like that, but I went over to them and I said, would you mind moving to the tall people area? And they were fine with that. And so since that time, when they come in, they sit in the adult side. So there's not that much seating in the children's side, and we want children to be able to, you know, teens can be intimidating if you're little. So I can't give you a good number, but we would like for teens to show up at teen programs for sure, and we need for some people to come in so that we can sort of spread the word by word of mouth, as well as signage and the website. So, because I think, especially with that group, word of mouth is the best way. So, I mean, it's small right now. We're trying to increase. So.
One idea might be the tutor mentor program that you mentioned. A lot of teenagers do really well with tutoring and mentoring the younger children. And that has been a very successful approach for a lot of the schools.
Right. So, and we have a pretty nice relationship with the high school. So maybe that's something that we could work on for upcoming the semester or even next fall. So
Kind of a peer mentoring, but really a tiered mentoring, not peer, tiered mentoring.
Yeah.
Might be useful.
That's a really
think,
good
yeah.
point.
I think if you connected with the guidance or counseling department at the high school, they probably could identify some young people for you to meet and talk with. From my time here earlier today, of that high school group I met, I think there were 4 or 5 guys and 1 girl. And I know this for sure. If it's going to happen, you need the girls. So if you got in touch with the high school counseling area, I'm sure they could generate some interest in the students, and a lot in girl leadership over there makes a big difference.
well, I've made a mental note of that, and I'm going to reach out to them. So.
And I just want to reinforce that idea because when I was working at Central Library, shout out to Volunteer Services Department, they sent me a high school student from Heron High School to help out with the Minecraft Club. And he would do such an amazing job, like getting the kids like that were smaller than him or that were just new to the club involved and learning how to play the game and, you know, work really well with other kids and things like that. And he has since graduated. He stayed with me all 4 years, volunteering for that Minecraft club. He graduated, and now he's going on to do IT, kind of like computer science kind of stuff. So it's really interesting seeing them kind of develop themselves as leaders in that kind of mentor role. It's really nice.
Okay. Thank you so much for your report, and thank you for welcoming us. And we'll move on to our next agenda item.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. The current NDPL strategic plan includes a priority on information and literacies in 5 key areas: digital technology, education, health and wellness, financial literacy, and reading and writing. Tonight, in response to, I think, requests that we have, we will receive a report on reading and writing presented by Ms. Shale Weidenbach, Area Resource Manager of Youth Services, and Ms. Sakara Fuqua, Program Specialist of Immigrant Outreach. Hello. Good evening and welcome, ladies. I look forward to hearing your report.
All right. Well, hello again. Good to see you again. My name's Shale Weidenbach, and I'm the Area Resource Manager for Youth Services. And in response to a board request, we're here to just provide a brief presentation about literacy in Marion County, but really focusing on how the library is supporting supporting efforts to increase literacy success. Because we know that we're not teachers, right? Schools are out there, and there's lots of other resources, and we're connectors. So, I don't know. All right, so I would say all of our strategic priorities really do get back to the heart of reading and writing. But specifically, the reading and writing strategic priority, I want to emphasize that we provide innovative reading and writing programs. We inform the community of resources available to them, and then we serve as a connector, connecting those patrons to the community groups that can help them, as well as vice versa. So, switch. Next. Okay, but I can't not talk about the collection because the collection is key. And we're doing a couple of new things to try to address literacy. So the first is this Quick Reads initiative, launching in 2024. It will consist of high-interest, low-vocabulary books. So that will meet the needs of teens and adults who are impacted by educational inequity. It also broadens our adult and teen collection to be more inclusive of a variety of literacy levels, and it supports our newcomer population and new reader communities. Next. Also, we have a diverse and inclusive collection. So our world language collection, this always blows my mind. We currently have books in 28 different languages. And that's amazing to me. We also have audiobooks for English language learners. We have a robust bilingual children's read-along collection, as well as online programs in Mango languages. Yeah. All right, so let's jump into what I know about, really, which is programs. So go ahead and switch. I know that we've talked about the variety of programs that we offer to youth through the library. Most of you are very familiar with the preschool programs. I think that's the thing that pops into people's head. In 2023, we offered 279 programs targeting children 0 to 5, focused solely on reading and writing. And that served over 58,000 people. School-age programs are really more focused on engaging activities with trying to get kids excited about reading, right? So if you have a really cool program about, I don't know, we have like a painting program, and then they see books about painting, and every program always has a book display that showcases the collection related to the program. So it gets kids excited because they're there for that thing, but then they get the books that support them. In 2023, we offered 235 school-age programs with an attendance of over 15,000. I also wanted to point out that we do have, other than our shared system students who receive library cards, we also have library card initiatives where we go out and in this last year, we were at Franklin, Wayne, Washington, Pike, and Perry Township, as well as IPS students not in the shared system. And in 2023, provided over 15,000 library cards to children in Marion County. The next slide. The program that I really wanted to highlight that I feel is unique is called On the Road to Reading. I don't know if you all are familiar with it. And it focuses on the American Library Association's practices of the Every Child Ready to Read. So that's reading, writing, talking, singing, and playing. Those 5 things are the core things that are in every early childhood program that we do. And in this program, the focus is really on the teachers. So we target schools that are child care centers, home care centers that are on levels 1 and 2 of Paths to Quality. So level 1 is the health and safety of the children is met. Level 2 is the environment supports learning. So they've made another step. And level 3 is that there's a curriculum in place. Level 4 is licensed. So we really focus on levels 1 and 2 to try to help them to develop that curriculum. And we do that. We have 4 program associates that are all part-time. Their salaries and all of the materials for this are all paid for through the foundation. And they go out to over 60 locations every month. I went out with them 2 weeks ago. So amazing. And really what they do a story time for the kids, right? So the kids benefit from that. But the same time, what they're doing is they're really modeling for the teachers, you know, how to read a book, how to choose a good book, right? Because for story time, you don't want to choose a book that has lots of words. You want to choose something that's really simplified, how to engage the children in the book. And every time they go, they leave materials that the teacher can use to build upon what they did, and materials also to send home to families so parents can also take part of it. So I feel like in that way, the library is really pushing out good literacy practices to the community. And then, next slide, we also have the shared system, which you had a presentation by Sarah Batt just a couple months ago. And that offers access to the library collection to over 36,000 children in Marion County. So just to remind you that that's another piece of the package of what we do to target literacy. And now, Sakura, who is our immigrant and refugee outreach program person.
Yes, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sakura Fuqua, and I am the immigrant outreach program specialist. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, next. Oh, one more. No, yes, thank you. The library offers an array of programs that are connected to the strategic priority. These programs are focused around adults, and this is from book clubs. We have Spanish book club and also book clubs for teens. We have author talks, meet an author, be an author, one state, one story, and English classes. But tonight I'm going to focus on a program that I'm directly involved with, and that is Pathway to Literacy. But first, I'd like to thank Ginger Kosobuski, the English Learning Director at the Immigrant Welcome Center, for joining us today. Pathway to Literacy started in 2020, and it was developed because it filled a need in Indianapolis to assess English language learners who are emergent readers with 6 years or less of formal schooling in their home countries. This is an area that was not addressed before the start of the program. This is a 15-week class that focuses on themes such as success at work, school and education, and housing. This is a referral program, so a lot of the students that come are referred from refugee resettlement organizations, from family and friends, from adult education programs in Marion County. There are 7 classes total, in person and online, and these are funded and hosted by the Immigrant Welcome Center, by Indy Reads, by Washington Township Adult Education, but then also by the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation. At NDPL, we host 2 of the programs in person. One's located at Eagle, and then the other's located at Southport. And then I have to also thank Bethany, Allison, Fiona Duke, and Susie Hillman, because they really put their all and give us 100% of their support. This program differs from some of the other programs that we have in the Programming Development Area, or PDA, as you all know, because it focuses on instructing emergent readers on how to read and write, but by trained instructors by the Immigrant Welcome Center. In 2023, last year, we had approximately 50 regular students with an attendance increase of 163%. There are about 15 countries represented, and the top 3 countries are Afghanistan, Burma, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The age range of the students are 18 to 60 plus, and the 41% of the adult students in the program had no prior opportunity to go to school in their home countries. This program is important because it helps parents become more engaged with their children's schooling and to take interest in their reading and writing development. And by investing in the language and literacy of the parents, we are also promoting literacy of the whole family. So to end, I just want to share 3 quotes from the students who have been impacted. So before I was not able to understand the questions and answer it. My kids were helping me with it, but now I can do it by myself. And this is a student from Somalia. It really helped me with reading and writing, and now I can read the book that I got. And this is a student from Burma. The last quote is, when I go outside, I can read the signs a little bit. And this is a student from Afghanistan. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you for that report. We have a very tight agenda tonight, but I would check with our board members to see if there are questions. Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
And there's more stats in the board packet.
Yeah, it's a great handout.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So the public, next on the agenda is public comment, and Ms. Angie Gilbert, would you
Yes.
administer that?
We have 2 individuals and a group of individuals that's going to speak. We do welcome feedback from the public about our Indianapolis libraries, and this is a time when the public may address the library board. If there are several individuals representing the same group, please select a spokesperson. Please do not repeat the same comments someone else has offered. Please note also that this public comment time is not the appropriate forum for commenting on matters related to employee charges, employee complaints, or alleged employee misconduct. Any such matter should be brought promptly to the attention of the CEO or the Human Resources Department, where matters can be properly addressed in compliance with established library policies and procedures. A 5-minute limit will be allowed for each speaker. Each speaker should give their name and if they are speaking on behalf of a group. And the first person up is Linda Kite, and then after that will be Michael Torres.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is, my last name is Kyle. It's Linda Kyle. And I am the president of the Decatur Township Civic Council, so I want to speak partly on my personal experience as a 20-year resident of Decatur Township, and also on my experience with the Decatur Township Civic Council and the relationship that we have with our library. And the feelings they kind of all mesh together. We love our library. We love our library staff. I can call on the phone. I can come in person. They answer questions. They walk me through IT problems because I call myself a tech-tard because I didn't grow up with this stuff. So technology kind of befuddles me sometimes. But they are always polite, courteous, happy, smiling, friendly. It's like they don't have bad days at work when they're in here. It's wonderful. I love your library kit in a bag. We have used that at the St. Anne's Book Club group, and I love being able to do that. And you have a great selection of titles to choose from, so we appreciate that very much. What else? Oh my gosh, I love, you guys have that, the virtual waiting shelf. You know, did you all know this? Like the virtual waiting shelf, I can sit at home and pick out library books that I want to read and put it on my computer and put it on my virtual shelf. And I have like 70 books now on my virtual shelf. I And then when I'm just driving by and I go, I have time to kill today, so I'm going to run in and grab a book. And so, I mean, you guys offer such fantastic programs. I really love it. We always have information from the library at our monthly civic council meetings. So, in fact, Doreen reached out to the county civic council board to just see if we wanted to have any input. And so I was delighted to take a little bit of time tonight and just say thank you for her. I think you took over after Kathleen left, right? You took over here. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I got to know you after Kathleen left here, but yeah. So we very much value our relationship. Like I said, mine personally, and I have been a resident of Decatur Township for 19 years now, and I cried when my key fob thing broke. And so they go, well, you can get a new one. I'm like, well, I've been emotionally attached to this one. I've had it for 18 years, people. So, but they did finally. They were so happy to get me set up with a whole new, key fob. And I just wanted to stop and say thank you, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate and value very much having a wonderful library right here in our little corner of Marion County. We seem to be sometimes the forgotten part of Marion County, and so it's wonderful to know that our library has not forgotten us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Michael Torres, and then we have a group from Staff Association that will speak.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Torres. I'm president of ASME Local 3395, representing Indianapolis Public Library workers. There's a reason you haven't seen or heard from me in a while, and it's because I and many others are really trying to give you all the opportunity to make things right on the handling of the CEO search, in spite of the outcry from staff and the community. So you can imagine, or maybe you can't, how we and many others, apparently a few of your colleagues, felt learning from the media that a resolution of separation of Nichelle M. Hayes from NDPL had been reached. No matter what your leadership or your influencers are telling you, Nichelle M. Hayes wasn't just a name on the separations list in the board packet. She was a former leader this board unanimously voted to hire when the other interim CEO left. She's someone we still respect and admire. And as Reverend William Barber from the Poor People's Campaign said, one step forward, two steps back. Moving on, our union members acknowledge everyone's contribution to the library varies. We all play an important role in servicing our patrons. We have public service staff or frontline staff who interact directly with patrons. We have support staff whose job makes the resources available to our patrons by processing, shipping, and placing materials on the shelves, as well as a staff who's committed to making our workplace a safe and secure environment. And we have administrators who are tasked with managing those groups and making policy. Many of our members ask us to address pay equity. Our ASME negotiations team of Jordan Hunt, ASME staff rep Tina Dillard, and I, along with NDPL's HR director, CFO, and CEO, put in many hours discussing salaries and benefits for 2024. The discussions were productive and respectful. We raised some issues and worked through most of them, and those we couldn't resolve, we made them a priority for the next round of negotiations. The salary increases we initially started with were not the ones that we ended up with, but the 4% raise and the extra pay is appreciated, so thank you. We've put a pause in bringing the contract to you due to one issue. We're meeting this week in hopes to resolve it so we can have it ready for you and for our members to ratify. This year, the 4% salary increase for 2024 made the full-time assistant average salary $37,000. The 4% salary increase for executives made an annual salary average of $123,000. Clearly, everyone's salary is different. But if we continue to practice the practice of using the across-the-board percentage raise system, we'll keep on widening the equity every time we follow it. No one expects an executive to work for a clerk's pay, but I have heard some of the staff saying some of our salaries seem extravagant. A few contracts back, the library and the union leadership agreed to the same dollar amount raise for everyone throughout the system. Our clerks got the same raise as the CEO. There are solutions out there that we just need to research them. I intend to ask our Ask Me library unions if pay equity had ever been an issue raised in their systems. Honestly, I see market rates more like guidelines and not so much gospel. NDPL can set a precedent by factoring in equity when our teams are discussing salary increases from here on. Who knows, including equity into the conversation of salary increases may chip away at those us versus them feelings, making us for a better workplace. Thank you.
Okay, now we have the group from Staff Association, Melinda Mulligan, Shanika Hayward, Rachel Wiesner, and Peggy Weir.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your presentation.
We're going to try to fit a few of us in here. So, good evening. My name's Melinda Mulligan.
Melinda, I need you to speak to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
My name's Melinda Mulligan. I'm the manager of the Wayne Branch Library and formerly chairperson of the Staff Association Program and Scholarship Committee. So we're here this evening. Remember last month I said we were going to hand out money, so we get to do that this evening. So as a reminder, Staff Association Program and Scholarship Committee provides funds for both library science degrees as well as undergraduate degrees. So we have a couple of staff who submitted applications and qualified for funds. Both of them are library science students, masters in library science. So one could not be here tonight, Katrina Barnett. So, but Corey Miner is here. So it's my pleasure, or our pleasure, to hand off funds to Corey Miner this evening. And I am remiss in mentioning that Peggy Weir and Rachel Wiesner are part of our committee, and then Shanika is our illustrious leader. A little snowed in there, aren't you? So any questions for us? All right, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Best wishes.
That's all.
Thank you.
Take care.
We'll move on to approval of the minutes. We only have regular meeting minutes from the December 18th regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on December 18th, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The minutes have been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes? Hearing none. Ms. Gilbert, please call the roll.
Mr. Lane,
Approve.
Dr. Matada,
Approved.
Dr. Palacio,
Approve.
Dr. White,
Approved.
and Ms. Tribble.
Approved.
Thank you.
Motion carries. We'll move on to committee reports, and we will begin with the Finance Committee, chaired by Dr. Patricia Payne, who is not with us tonight. Other members are Dr. Louis Palacio, Dr. Eugene White, and Dr. Palacio, I think you're standing in for Dr. Payne today.
Thank you. Alita, would you do the honors, please? Thanks.
She does it.
Easy enough.
And Mary.
Good evening, Board President Tribble and trustee members. How are you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mary and I will present the Treasury report tonight, and this will cover the calendar year ending 2023. First, I will review the revenue. I'm trying not to look that way. I'm going to try to look this way. We finished the year 2023 with 30% over our budgeted revenue. As you can see that our actual year-to-date was 60.7 million, and that is 30% of the budget. And we received approximately 34% over our property taxes, and that's because we're kind of over budgeted for our property tax caps. And then the intergovernmental revenue, we're 3% over budgeted, that we budgeted. And then for the miscellaneous revenue, our interest, we earned 1.2 million. And the Hoosier Funds and Trust Indiana both had our interest rate of 5.4%. The investment report is found on page 32 if you'd like to review the investment report. And also the detail for the revenue is found on page 27 if you'd like to review the detail of the revenue. The next slide will reflect the December versus 2023 and versus December 2022. You'll see it's a slope graph, and that the blue slope is the 2023, which will show that we're higher than what we have budgeted, and we earn more than we had in 2022. The other graph we're showing is the year-to-date for the 2022 and 2023. The blue column is the 2023, which you'll see that we have earned more than, again, the 2022 or 2020, or what we have budgeted as well, and the various of the revenue that we have. Any questions in regards to the graphs or revenue?
You said, pardon me, the property taxes, you overestimated the property tax caps, but was it also because of the increase in assessed values?
Yes. Any additional questions? No. Mary will now review the expenditures.
Next slide. The personal services and benefits, they ended up being 3.5 million more than last year. However, they remained under the budget by 12%, so that's favorable. The supplies are slightly under budget, but we do have more encumbered at year end, which will put us close to budget overall. The other services and charges represented a 13% increase. And again, there were some November and December invoices not processed and cleaning services that will bring it closer to budget accrual-wise. Capital outlay is consistent with last year. And we have the graphs for the expenditures also on a monthly basis on the left. December 2023 versus December 2022. And it shows the budget as the gray bar and for the month. And the blue is 2023. And this is by type. And then the year-to-date shows 2023 in yellow. So it's higher. But under budget. Well, the yellow is the budget, sorry. Blue is where we ended up. Are there any questions? We also have a tab for the next slide for a 5-year review, summary level of December revenue and expenditures. For the month ending December revenues, you can see we had a large amount, which is primarily on those property taxes total. And the expenditures also just show it's in line with other years. And on the major expenditures, also shows it by type, salaries being the largest, followed by benefits and collection materials. Any questions on expenditures?
On the previous slide, you said there was the budget for actual budget and then the year-to-date expenditures. Does that mean there's like a $4 million surplus that's carrying over to 2024, or how does that work? It's the yellow line and the blue line. I'm looking at those two on the year-to-date part.
Yes, we will have monies carry forward.
Okay. And that would be in the personal services and benefits, and that's for like hiring staff, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. Our budget for 2024 is separate,
Okay.
but we will have a cash balance going forward.
Of the 4 million. Okay.
But the encumbrances, we will have a motion later, a resolution to carry forward the encumbrances.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And then the cash flow statement, I believe, is on page 29 or 30 of your, of the treasury report. And that would show approximately how much will carry over. It's the unaudited amount.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other questions in regards to the expenditures? Yes. Next, the Finance Committee, we have 6 resolutions to review.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Oh,
all right. So, thank you for the treasurer's report. There are no questions, so we need to have the treasurer's report. I believe it was recommended for approval? No. It was not, okay. So we need a motion to approve the treasurer's report for December 2023 for filing for audit, please.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and is there any comment? Hearing none, I will have a roll call to accept the report of the treasurer.
Mr. Lane,
Approve?
Dr. Matata,
Approved.
Dr. Palacio,
Approve.
Dr. White,
Approved.
and Ms. Tribble.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, the motion carries. I was so excited to hear your resolutions. I myself for a moment.
I'm sorry. Now we have 6 resolutions. I will review the first resolution, which is coming out of CMSA. Deb is unable to join us tonight, so I will review her resolution. It's in regards to the annual Baker and Taylor book leasing and high demand services. This program provides management tools to manage and acquire forthcoming high demand titles efficiently and quickly so the library can meet public demands. This service includes automatic monthly pre-publication selection list for the most popular authors, a robust commerce account system that tracks current and past orders, shelf-ready processing, cataloging records, and fast and timely delivery. This service optimizes and simplifies acquisitions of many copies of high-demand titles throughout the year, even during the end-of-the-year period when we're unable to place traditional public purchasing orders. Despite this program name, this library is not required to return the books to the vendor and is able to funnel the books from this program through the library bookstore when the library no longer needs them. Under terms of this subscription, the library will pay Baker and Taylor a total of $116,905 for approximately 6,684 items during the period of February 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2025. Strategic fiscal impact, the service costs the $116,000 will be funded from the book and material operating funds. This came through the Finance Committee as approval to the board.
Great. So, thank you. It's been noted the Resolution 1, 2024, the annual Baker and Taylor Book Leasing High Demand Services, received a favorable recommendation from the Finance Committee. So is there a second to this recommendation? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Lane?
Approve.
Dr. Matata?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved.
Thank you.
The motion carries. On to resolution number 2.
Yes, resolution number 2, I'd like to call Shanika Hayward up here. This is through IT.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, one more thing. You also have a hard copy of the resolution, because in the board packet, it didn't copy all of the pages. So on your, in front of you, should have resolution number 2.
6C, so it's item 6C, it's marked. Okay.
Okay. Good evening, President Tribble and members of the board. I'm coming to you for Resolution 02, 2024. It's for the network switches and related equipment. Take it out this page, 'cause that's too small to read. Okay, so the IT department is seeking to replace our network switches and our related equipment. Our network switches are our routers and our control network traffic at the Central Library, the Library Service Center, and the branch locations. Each network device, such as our public PCs, our staff PCs, our telephone, printers, and cameras, etc., is connected to the switches and receives its connection to the rest of our network, and ultimately through our internet service. Our current switches were purchased in 2015 and is at the end of life. So what we've decided to do is to put out a request for bid for new switches, which allows NDPL to be current with our Cisco support and easier for administration when we're updating our networking equipment. To facilitate the purchase, NDPL issued a request for bid on October the 20th and gave prospective bidders until December the 20th at 8 a.m. to submit a sealed bid. NDPL received a total of 9 unique bids. The bids were opened and read aloud on December the 20th at the Library Service Center. In submitting a sealed bid, the bidders agreed that the purchase includes the bid will be valid for 60 days following the opening of the bids, or February the 18th. The total cost was $501,516, and it has been budgeted in for the 2024-2025 operating budget. It's anticipated that E-rate funding will reimburse the library at 80 to 85% of the cost of equipment, as long as we're in compliance with their guidelines. The Finance Committee recommend approval of the network switches and related equipment. Is there any questions there?
Okay. Hearing no questions, I believe this resolution was also received a favorable recommendation during the Finance Committee meeting, so we'll just need a second for the recommendation.
Second.
Great. And is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll, Ms. Gilbert.
Mr. Lane?
Approve.
Dr. Matata?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved.
Thank you.
The motion carries. On to thank you, Ms. Hayward. We'll move on to Resolution 3.
Resolution 3 is the disclosure of waived fees and fines. This also received a favorable approval through the Finance Committee. Annually, state guidelines require the board to disclose the amount of fines and fees waived on patrons' accounts. These are fines and fees and miscellaneous charges that library has deemed uncollectible during the year. For the year ending December 31st, 2023, the uncollectible fines and fees total $130,168. The amount was due to fines and fees waived at branches. The library debt collection procedures was followed on all accounts. The chart below shows the fines and fees waived at branches in 2023 compared to 2022. The fiscal impact is the reduction in the accounts receivable reported to the library financial statements. So you'll see the graph down here at the bottom, and in April you'll see a escalation of the graph for 2023, and this is when they did a cleanup. That it went back to possibly back to 2004. I think some of the fines were. And to give you a little background, in 2022 we had $100,228 that was waived and forgiven, and in 2021 we had $48,000. As you can see, it has kind of escalated some throughout the years. So we're asking, it came through the Finance Committee as a favorable approval.
Okay, this is Resolution 3, Disclosure of Waived Fines and Fees. It received a favorable recommendation, so is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Lane?
Approve.
Dr. Matata?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approved.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved. The motion carries. We'll move on with Resolution number 4.
Resolution number 4, item 6C, you also have a hard copy in front of you. The complete resolution didn't get scanned into the board packet.
It's item 6E.
E.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes. The state guideline required the board to authorize the outstanding purchase orders of the year-end. These outstanding purchase orders were not paid prior to December 31st, 2023. Therefore, it is being deemed necessary to carry them forward into the new fiscal year 2024. The appropriation to cover the purchase order once expense will come from the 2023 budget. There's no fiscal impact in the 2024 budget as the appropriation are provided in the purchase order is for the 2023 budget. Again, this resolution received a favorable approval through the Finance Committee.
Okay, it's noted that Resolution 4 about outstanding purchase orders received a favorable recommendation from the Finance Committee. Is there a second to this recommendation?
Second.
The motion's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll, Ms. Gilbert.
Mr. Lane?
Approve.
Dr. Matata?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approved.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved, the motion carries. We'll move on to Resolution number 5.
Item 6F, in pursuit to Indiana Code 5-13-7-2B, the Indianapolis Public Library fiscal body may designate the Marion County Board of Finance to serve as the library local board of finance. It has been the practice of the library to designate the Marion County Board of Finance to serve in the capacity in the past. The library management recommends that the library continues this relationship for 2024 by designating this relationship, the Marion County Board of Finance, to serve in this capacity. It allows the library to benefit from the investment practices implemented by other government entities. This also received a favorable approval through the Finance Committee.
Okay, so Resolution 5, confirming the Marion County Board of Finance received a favorable recommendation in committee, so may I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any questions?
Is there like another board that we could go to? I would assume that's like the only one, right? Okay.
I mean, just about every taxing unit in the city county uses that board, and it's our commissioners, is that correct?
Yes,
It's led by our county commissioners.
Yeah.
Yes. The schools, I think, also use them, so. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Lane?
Approve?
Dr. Martada?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved. The motion carries. We'll move on to resolution number 6.
Our last resolution, this is the transfer between classification and accounts, Resolution 6-2024. The transfer in the operation fund is to move funds within the facilities department budget from various accounts to appointed salaries to fund the salaries of library security assistants. The transfer has no impact on the total budget for 2024 as the funds are moving from one account to the next. Below is the various accounts from facilities budget and moving up to the personnel services to cover that for the LSAs. And this also received a favorable approval in the Finance Committee.
Okay. Resolution number 6, transfer between classifications and accounts, has received a favorable recommendation from committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Lane?
Approve?
Dr. Martada?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved. The motion carries.
I am finished.
That is it. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Madam CFO. You drawing back the curtains there. Appreciate you. We'll move on to item number 6 on our agenda is the Diversity Policy and Human Resources Committee, chaired by Raymond Biederman, and members Dr. Martada, Dr. Palacio, and Dr. Payne. Mr. Biederman said there is no report from the DPHR committee tonight, so we'll move forward to the Facilities Committee, chaired by Dr. White, and members with Mr. Lane and Dr. Martada.
Well, we're very pleased to come before you tonight. Adam is ready. I'm excited, so Adam will present our information.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, I have 2 resolutions tonight. First one is Resolution 7-2024, approval to award a construction services contract for the Pike Branch renovation project. Similar to the Nora Branch renovation project, this is a very broad interior renovation with MEP, an updated teen area, which is in dire need at Pike, gender-neutral patron restrooms, and optimizing staff and patron work areas. So, I updated my slides a little bit. This is particularly for vendor outreach. We submitted a public notice to local newspapers in November, sent direct notice to 49 vendors, 20 of which were XBE vendors. We posted the RFP on the NDPL website. Bid documents were available to be grabbed by any company at Reprographics, and we had a pre-bid conference and site tour with 7 vendors. This was an invitation to bid process following the Public Works statute under Indiana Code 36-1-12. We received 2 bids. Under that Public Works statute, NDPL shall award the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, which was deemed to be Holiday Construction Group, LLC. The awarded cost of just over $3.1 million is under the architect's estimated cost of $3.55 million. Additionally, is within the overall project budget of $5.4 million. This project has been tagged to be funded out of the 2023 C bond, which is Fund 489. DEI impact. The vendor is not a city-certified XBE and will self-perform 82% of the work. 2 contractors are MBEs and will perform 17.6% of the work. 1 subcontractor is a WBE and will perform 0.05% of the work. The XBE utilization waiver, since this did not reach all 4 goals, individual goals, that were approved by the board in 2020. A waiver was required. It was reviewed and approved by Gwen Simmons, our manager of purchasing and supplier diversity. And as a benchmark, the 2023 NDPL XBE utilization in total was 54%. While we do have 4 individual goals, the sum was 54%. So Pike is already closed because they are doing some exterior window work, which is already underway. Right at the moment, by the end of this month, we should have most of the mobilization and prep ready. February to January's construction. First day of service is scheduled to be February 15th of 2025. That's all the information.
So we'll be, okay, so
Yep.
we'll be starting back next February, reopening. That's our goal there.
Yes. Yep. Construction complete in January and ribbon cutting in February.
Great. So this is resolution number 7. Approval to award a,
I guess she had the committee did recommend a due path.
okay, thank you. So it's been noted that resolution 7, approval to award construction services contract for the Pike Branch renovation, has received a favorable recommendation from the Facilities Committee. Is there a second to the recommendation?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll now have a roll call.
Mr. Lane?
Approved.
Dr. Matata? Approved. Dr. Palacio?
Approved.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved.
Thank you.
The motion carries. And we'll move on with resolution number 8.
All right, Resolution 8-2024 is request to approve, approval to award a memorandum of understanding with New Direction Church for Sunday parking at East 38th Street Branch. So New Direction Church, their congregation is growing. They are immediately to the west, just across the street from East 38th Street Branch. They have a good working relationship. New Direction Church contributes quite a bit to their food pantry. Librarians frequent their facility to provide direct library services. It's a great relationship that we have. East 38th Street is not a Sunday branch, and the church would like to use their parking lot as an overflow lot to allow their congregation to park as close as possible to the church without having to cross 38th. This is a memorandum of understanding, so there was no vendor outreach. Neither was it guided by any Indiana codes for purchasing. There's no direct financial impact, as this is just an MOU. There is no fee being charged. This is not a lease. The only almost insignificant impact would be that East 38th would receive priority snow and ice removal on Sundays. They are currently not a Sunday branch, and so they don't receive priority, even though we are required to remove snow and ice within 24 hours. They would just be on the same priority as our other Sunday branches. And there's no direct DEI impact either.
This is a great positive community relational situation. And of course, the Facilities Committee recommended a due path.
Okay, is there a second to the recommendation?
Second.
It's been seconded, and we have a similar relationship with another church, don't we? Or do we still have, there's another church that
Thinking of
share
Irvington?
parking lot,
Irvington.
right?
Irvington, you're the beneficiary versus.
Oh, we're the benefit,
Yeah,
we're
correct.
using theirs.
Correct.
We're using theirs, okay. So now we're passing it on, okay. Is there any further comment or discussion?
Just just a typo here on the first page. That's New Direction Church. There's an N that's added to church, so that just needs to be removed. That's it.
Take care of that.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. If there's no further discussion, please call the roll, Ms. Gilbert.
Mr. Lane?
Approve?
Dr. Matata? Approve. Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. White?
Approve.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Parson. Now, here's the tricky part. Our board member, Ray Biederman, was looking for a link to get into this meeting. Is there one tonight? If not, I'll tell him we'll move on. Is there a link? Pardon me? Pardon me?
You just requested one?
No, he actually told me earlier. Yeah. So, but we'll move on while we do that with the Library Foundation update. And I believe, Mr. Palacio, you were standing in for Mr. Biederman too. Dr. Palacio.
Thank you. So from the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation, the big news is that tickets for Circulate are now available. The event is March 16th, and it's a night at the library. It's from 6:30 to 10 p.m. Also, we want to, on the donation side, I want to thank 257 donors from last month contributing to the foundation. And some of the top corporate donors include Ayers Foundation, Blue and Company, Corteva, Dynamart Graphics Group, Indigo Foundation, Live Nation Worldwide, Annis Educational Foundation, the Swisher Foundation, and West Indianapolis Development Corporation. And for this month, the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation will be supporting the library with $90,000 for programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Palacio, and thank you to the Library Foundation for its support of the library work. I'm going to move on now to the report of the CEO. Mr. Gregory Hill.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Board President, trustees, members of the public. The first one is the confirming resolution. Before you is the monthly confirming resolution related to financial, travel, and personal matters occurring between each board meeting. It's in its standard format. I would ask for your approval on the resolution. Resolution 9-2024.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 9-2024 regarding finances, personnel, and travel?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes. First, I want to thank Liz, who's here, and congratulate you on your being the Central Area Resource Manager. I think you're going to be great in that role. So, congrats. I got an email from a staff that's part of the separation list. I'm not going to say their name, but they sent me an email about workplace discrimination that they feel that they faced within their short time here at NDPO. So I just wanted to ask, what systems are there in place for staff if they feel like they're being targeted by like a supervisor or a branch manager or anything? What kind of recourse is there for staff that they're not just being pushed out of the organization or fired?
Okay. Great, good question. Thank you, Stephen. Since she was on a probationary period, she wasn't eligible for appeal or union representation. She was on a probationary period, which was extended twice for a total of 60 days. She was also offered other positions, but she was not interested.
Was your question about resources internally in HR, though?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we do have a system
If
that
they're
was
like-
put into place a couple of years ago, right?
But since she was still on her probationary
She
period.
doesn't have
She
access.
didn't
Have
have
to be
it.
outside of it. Even though she completed the 90 days, it was like an extended probation.
Right, she was extended probation by 60 days.
Right, that's what I was mentioning, the Integra reporting system. So that wouldn't be available,
That would be available.
the Integra reporting
That-
system?
I'm sorry, yes, that would be available.
Which is an odd, I mean, you can talk more
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it,
what
but
is
it's an,
So Integra Report is a report that we brought on board in October of '22 that allows staff to do anonymous reporting. And the last report, I just received it in December, I think there were 3 reports, but none of them included that one.
and that's monitored by HR.
And then what happens when like an Integra report comes in? Then what triggers an action?
When an Integra report comes in, as you seen in my last presentation in December, I gave you the flow chart of how investigations are held. Then an investigation is triggered, and then they work through the flow chart.
Do you think this could work retroactively for an employee that feels like they were targeted?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, I would think that would be something we could take up with our attorneys about in HR. Yeah, I need to have more information. So we can, if we can connect about that out after the meeting, to answer your question.
All right, yeah, thanks. Okay, next is the,
Wait a minute,
Oh, I'm
are there
sorry.
any other questions
Oh, no.
about, that's okay. Are there any other questions about the resolutions on finances, personnel, and travel? Hearing none, please call the roll, Ms. Gilbert.
Mr. Lane?
In good conscience, I can't approve this. Just seeing Michelle's name on here, just good moral conscience, abstain.
Dr. Matata?
Approve.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. White?
Approve.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approve, and I just want to, just getting back to our, welcome, Mr. Biederman, I'll be, are you? Just looked up and saw you.
That's scary.
Red light.
Did you want to participate in the vote on the finances, personnel, and travel?
That is the reason my camera's on. Yes, I approve.
Okay, thank you. And then I did want to circle back, Mr. Lane, about abstentions, and the reason for your abstention was generally, as I understand it, for a conflict of interest. Can you advise on that?
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about in some training concepts over the last 6 months, generally, an abstention is reserved in the public trust for areas where you do have a conflict, an actual or perceived conflict of interest. And so that would be the stated reason for which that, and typically you would disclose that if that's in fact the case.
Hearing that, would you reconsider your vote, please?
No. I mean, my vote then is no.
Your vote is no. Okay, thank you. So the motion passes 5-1. Thank you. Okay, well,
Is Mr. Biederman gone?
He just left.
Do you need Ray for another vote? I was just curious. Because he's still on Zoom if you need him.
well, I think he wanted to participate. We weren't, yeah.
So he's still here.
Yeah, that was, he misses us, I guess. He wants to be here, so. All right, we'll move on. Mr. Hill.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I need my PowerPoint.
We can't do both, so,
Okay,
He would need to be seen and heard only for votes, so I think it would be appropriate at a voting time. If you would bring him back up, that would be appropriate.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you. Okay, so my CEO report, we're going to focus on programs for the year 2023. This report highlights selected programs from 2023, showcasing contributions from PDA, the Center for Black Literature and Culture, the African American History Committee, the LGBTQ+ Committee, and the Social Services Action Committee. And well, let me go back one. I went too far ahead. So we'll talk about programming preview, the best of juvenile programs. Here's what we, the programming development area, felt were their best of juvenile programs. One of them was the Why Author Visit featuring A.S. King. It was in November. We had about 319 patrons who visited with the young adult author A.S. King. He discussed trends in book challenges and censorship through the lens of her book, An Attack of the Black Rectangles. This insightful discussion gave our audience a safe venue to discover what they can do to promote intellectual freedom where they live. ASL Storytime, I'll jump down to the third one. Storytime is a popular, regular part of our life here at the library. In 2023, these events became more accessible with American Sign Language interpretation. Throughout the year, branches requested ASL interpretations for deaf and hard of hearing patrons. We were able to deliver 6 story times in sign language that served 141 total patrons. Pathways to Literacy, Michelle and Sakura, they talked about that in their presentation, so I'll skip on that one. The next one was Meet an Author, Be an Author. The library isn't just about reading. We are a place that fosters new ideas through creative expression. One of the most significant ways we achieved this in 2023 was the Central Library's Meet an Author, Be an Author event. This was a day-long conference that was welcomed by 300+ published authors, aspiring writers, and fans to Central Library to learn about creative writing. In this program, we led professionals-led skills workshops with writing organizations like Speed City Sisters in Crime and the Indiana Writers Center. North Star Digital, I had talked about that in one of my earlier reports. It was launched in the summer of 2023 with all 26 locations having North Star Digital Literacy. The next one I wanted to talk about is the African American History Committee. One of the programs that we had was Salute to Black Medical Heroes, which was actually a program that was presented in 2022. At that program, this program offers people of color a chance to learn about the medical profession by presenting programs in the series titled Salute to Our Black Medical Heroes. This initiative included a reception where 30 Black local medical heroes were nominated, honored, and awarded the Dr. George H. Rawls Award. Dr. Virginia Kane, who was nominated, she served as our keynote speaker. The program also included 2 youth medical summits to inspire the next generation of medical heroes. The library partnered with local area schools to bring in students to the library to participate in clinical skills breakout sessions, which was led by local volunteer doctors. The students could also interact with some of the nominated medical heroes for lunch. Participants received free books and information to support their journey to a career in medicine. Both summits featured African American doctors as the keynote speakers. Participants totaled 141 for that particular program. Fall Fest 2023 Slam and Rhymes Challenge. The Indianapolis Public Library African American History Committee presented their annual Slam and Rhymes and Fall Fest event. It provided an opportunity and venue for local students to express themselves by sharing their written words to this challenge. 10 students, poets, were chosen to read at the Fall Fest event, so there were no winners. We just went through all the poems and we selected 10 students to read their poems to the audience. And the youth, let's see, I lost my spot here. The 10 students were chosen to read at the Fall Fest event. However, every student who wrote a poem was given a gift card. Our guest speaker was Kim Fields, standing room only. She's a veteran actress with an eminent household name. She starred in 2 long-running series, Facts of Life and Living Single on Fox. And the audience really loved her. The title of her speech was Giving Yourself Permission. We had approximately 331 people in attendance for that event. The LGBTQT plus committee and the social services committee also had a couple programs. One of them was the Drag Queen Storytime. They hosted the Drag Queen Storytime at Central. We had about 150 people who attended that event. Also, Mr. Stephen Lane was in attendance for that. I got a chance to see him there. We had a whole bunch of adults and children, and we had a full house in the Riley Room, and that's the background photo that you see there. The Social Services Action Committee, they had the Community Resource Fair that was held in October, and it was the second annual community fair, and they had about 818 people who came through the fair. I happened to go down there on that day as well, and it was a very big success. So we look forward to having that program again next year. The next is the Center for Black Literature and Culture. If you look in your report, there was, I don't know, maybe at least 10 programs that's listed in your report, but I'll cover 3 of them. The first one was the Juneteenth Book Fest celebration. The theme and author spotlight was called Afrofuturism, a glimpse into the Black future, inspired by Octavia Butler and other authors and artists. Let's see, there was Faye Williams was the featured speaker, and it was moderated by Amir Malcolm. We had an overall patron attendance count of about 200 patrons. Some of the comments that was received included, love the information, love the setting, love the positivity, genuinely nice, very cultural. And also, beautiful people are so friendly, and it's good to be able to support people from Indianapolis. The other program was the Center for Leadership Development. The CDLC partnered with the Center for Leadership Development to host the 6-week Imani Book Club. We had, the first meeting was in June, and it featured 7th and 8th grade students attending. All 10 students who enrolled finished the book and the CDLC Leadership Program. Participants from the students were phenomenal. Participation from the students were phenomenal. They came prepared with the readings and comments about what they read. So that was a great program as well. The next thing I want to talk about here is some results from last year, and this is our branch visits. As you can see, our growth by quarters in every quarter from 2001 to 2023, we had an increase in our door count, and we had a 128% increase from quarter 1. From 2021 to 2023, that was our biggest increase, 128% increase in quarter 1 from the year 21 to 23. We don't quite know why quarter 4 kind of dropped back a little bit, but that could be the winter months, school being out and those type of things. So looks like we had some really good growth from the pandemic, that our door count is starting to come back up. Some of our goals for quarter 1, strategic planning, which our strategic planning and assessment officer will do a brief presentation here tonight. The climate improvement, we're still working with that. And then staff engagement, we have we have some surveys, matter of fact, that was sent out today for staff engagement. I think that'll run from a week, so we're just trying to gauge how people feel about their job satisfaction and how things are working for them in the library. So that's some of our goals for quarter 1. Some of our added priorities is door counters. Normally, when some of the door counters don't work, we use historical data to get us some type of adjustment count. But we are in the process of installing brand-new door counters in all locations. That should be done by February, the middle of February, so all locations will have brand-new door counters, which will help with our door count situation. The next added priority we had is customer service satisfaction. We're working on doing a point of service satisfaction survey with our patrons that come in through the branch to find out, if we're serving them correctly and they're getting the best customer service possible. And then the Glendale grand opening is still scheduled for March the 30th. And then last, staff opportunities for the next quarter, we have the Innovate Conference, we have the ILF Youth Services Conference, and then also Innovative Users Group Conference. And I think we have a total of 12 staff that will be attending those 3 conferences in total. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Yes. 2 questions. You gave an outstanding number for the attention to the Social Services Action Committee, the event. What kinds of things were there?
For the resource fair, there was tabling. I can't remember how many actual vendors we had. I think maybe 70 to 75 vendors that we had tabling. They gave out information to the patrons that came through.
What, like information like?
Well, we had different vendors. Liz is here, so we had different vendors, and maybe Liz can help with that.
Would you come to the mic, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
And Liz is the sponsor of the committee.
So yeah, we had between 70 and 75 vendors come, all variety. I mean, we had employment, we had healthcare, we had other resources, we had social service agencies, we had hospitals, medical type stuff. So anyone, we kind of ran the gamut, and yeah, we were really pleased.
Fantastic. The reason why I asked is because all libraries now are facing a great deal of issues with housing and homeless, unsheltered issues.
Yeah.
And just the recent issue that came out of the public library report, again, stresses it. And so I keep thinking about what, I know our branches are paying attention to the homeless issues, et cetera. And we don't have time to talk about all of the different things, but I was wondering about what kind of services we're supporting. And the other day, Greg and I were looking out the window and people were lined up for, getting food and, different kinds of supports. So how we think about that as a part of the Social Service Action Committee.
Yeah, and, in addition, that's something Yana, the social worker, is working on as well, and for next year for the fair, that's one thing, trying to look at affordable housing, look at what the city's doing, to address that issue that we have in our city.
Yeah, it's such a big issue.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm just glad that we have so many vendors that are coming out
Yeah.
and supporting and sharing. And if we could take some more time to think through what does that mean in terms of the issues impacting the library, that'd be very.
And yes, thank you. Yana will be on the agenda next month. She will give an update on social services for the library.
Thank you. I had one other question. It had to do with the customer or patron service satisfaction survey. How is that being handled?
So I'll have Mackenzie come up and talk about that. She's taking care of it.
So we're exploring some options right now. We're looking at putting survey links at the bottom of receipts, having some scannable QR codes inside of the library at service points, but essentially trying to capture just some really brief feedback, just 3 simple questions to rate what an experience was like with the library, also to look at some common, issues that we may want to track, such as cleaning. So there will be 2 core questions, one on customer service, one on cleanliness of facilities, and then a rotating question that will change every time you take the survey to sort of give us broader feedback about people's experiences.
How will it be differentiated for the different branches? I remember Garrett used to tell me each branch is so very different, and yet we seem to overgeneralize that each branch is just the same. So how do we pay attention to those differences?
Sure. So this is a pretty high-level feedback, so we will be able to see branch by branch if there is a particular trend in their data over time. but the questions are very simple. It's essentially if you've ever been at a checkout where it says, how was your service today? Give us 1 to 3 stars. It's going to be something very simple like that to encourage lots of feedback so that we're not monopolizing anyone's time, but it won't give us necessarily a lot of specific details. The goal of it is to trigger when we need to investigate and look into something that might be happening at a branch. So if we saw a trend in customer service or cleanliness, that would be a signal for us to do some additional work to fill in the gaps of information, and at that point we could tailor the solution to that branch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, Mackenzie's about to come up again next, so she's going to give a strategic planning update by Ms. Marianne McKenzie.
Thank you.
So I am happy to be here. Of course, I'm Mackenzie, the Strategic Planning and Assessment Officer, and I'd like to share with you the official overview of our strategic planning process development. I have 20 slides. We are not going to cover all of them because it is late in the meeting. So what I'm going to try and do is allow you to ask me some questions at the end of this to focus on the areas that you have the most questions, but try and move rapidly through the information you have in the printed packet in front of you. The main issue that I'd like to discuss tonight is the actual process for developing the plan. So all of you, of course, were present at a training back in December where we talked about what the requirements are for the state for long-term plans for libraries and some guidance from the Public Library Association. But for those who are present with us who weren't at that training, what we discussed was how we want a plan that will have a mission, vision, and values, have strategic priorities, have goals, and have objectives. This is very similar to the plan that we currently have adopted, and it aligns with the recommendation from the Indiana State Library in the Public Trust Manual. Our goal will be to develop within this year and publish the mission all the way down through the goals, and then the objectives would be items that we would adopt on an annual basis. Those would be the actual action steps that we take to support the strategic plan. So this is the structure that we'll be targeting in this development process. What I proposed is that we use a 3-committee structure to develop this plan. We would have a board committee, which is something that has historically been done in strategic planning for this board, and a community committee to provide direct feedback at the community level on what they see are the needs of the community and to help us tailor our recommendations and solutions to that observed need. And then, of course, we would have a staff committee. A staff committee is going to be the driving force behind this process. We are a community-based organization, so we recognize that our staff know their community and can give us great feedback and insights on how we can fulfill our mission effectively. The structure essentially goes, there's the board and the board committee, and then beneath that there is the community committee. The community committee is recruited through the board and also through the CEO, because of course the board is representing the community within our structure. And then underneath the CEO, we have the staff committee. So the staff committee is reporting up through the CEO and then back to the board. You'll see I did include the leadership team in there. The leadership team serves as a facilitator between the three committees to ensure that there is effective communication and clear understanding of where elements are in the process and who's responsible for drafting them at any given time. So the leadership team at times does take some hands-on action as a result of that. But predominantly that lower left corner, that staff committee, that really pushes everything through the plan. I did provide a little additional detail about the projected number of members to be involved and who might be included. We are suggesting that the board have 1 member serve on the community steering committee, as well as our CEO and Chief Public Service Officer. And then our Chief Public Service Officer would also serve on the staff strategic plan committee as well. And then the leadership team would serve as facilitators for the community steering committee because we want them to hear that direct feedback hands-on, even though they may not be participating in the discussion. I have a current timeline, so I've provided all of you a preview of this when we talked about what the Public Library Association process might look like for our library. but we have updated this to include more precise dates, and we've expanded this out. What we discovered is that if we wanted to make sure we had a broad timeline, learning from what we learned in the long-term facilities plan process, a long time period to engage the community for feedback, we needed to expand the plan out. I think originally I'd shared we'd hope to be ending in June, and now we're looking to be ending in August. And we would have 3 phases. The first phase is laying a foundation, and as you can see here, has already started. The primary goal for phase 1 is to make sure that you are recruiting your committee members, developing a robust communication plan that covers the entire process so that there are no balls dropped in communication as things get more complicated. And then also to examine and explore a need for external support, such as a consultant to support the process. Because we'd already started the process of this with our long-term facilities assessment, we also are consecutively beginning phase 2, which is going to focus on gathering community data. So in this phase, we are looking at items such as what is our data from the past 3 years? So looking at our annual reports, also looking at how can we speak to staff and learn about their experiences. So as Gregory mentioned just today, we had a survey that went out, and embedded in that survey is a reflection activity for staff where they can share about our current values and if they believe that those are still resonating with them, and then asking them specifically if they would like to add an additional value, which is the idea of freedom to read, because that has become such a core issue facing libraries, both locally and nationally. So this particular phase runs beginning now and sort of starts to wind down in April. And again, consecutively, because we already started this process, phase 3 is running alongside that. So we are looking at examining our mission, vision, and values very quickly here in the next few weeks. And then we would be looking at beginning the process as defining our strategic priorities, and this would go through the staff committee. The reason for that, and the reason I pulled this section of phase 3 into a separate graphic, is because that April 21st deadline is a hard deadline. In order for us to be able to do our community action plans and plan for programming in the following year, we absolutely have to push through and have the strategic priorities developed by that date. What comes after that has a slightly longer time frame. So what we're going to do is use the staff's great experience and understanding of the community to define those strategic priorities, and then use the information we've already gathered from the community in the long-term facilities plan process to identify those priorities. Then we're going to go back to the community and say, we've identified these potential priorities. Can you share with us how you think we can help address these needs? And at that point, we will start the community committee process as well and allow them to give us focused feedback. This allows us to be respectful of the community members who are volunteering their time so they can focus on the areas where they can provide us the best and most impactful feedback. And that process, again, this one has a little bit of wiggle room. If we wanted to, we could extend this out into September if we found conversations needed more time or scheduling was difficult. But the ultimate goal would be to move through that and formally adopt in August. Now, everything that I've shared so far has been pretty high level. I did provide you some exact descriptions of how individual plan elements are developed and who ultimately is responsible for them. So we tried to be thoughtful about, where possible, starting from the staff committee and giving them final approval and input into drafts. So our mission, vision, and values are very internal. So you'll see that beginning now, those pass through the staff committee back to the board committee and back to the leadership team and back to the board, because that's quite an internal reflection activity. But then when we start to get to priorities, we again, because of the timeline that we have, are going to be relying on staff feedback and the existing community feedback that we've already gathered. But we are also going to take those priorities and eventually have them land in the community committee so that the community is able to give us direct feedback before we start developing goals and we can make adjustments. So although we have that hard April 21st deadline of having the final strategic priorities, we still are going to allow the community to continue to inform that and adjust if there, for some reason we were to be slightly off course. So you'll see here, this one, because it's a slightly more involved and important topic, goes through the staff committee, through the board committee, back to staff committee. So there's a little bit of back and forth, but we tried to be mindful that conversations were not happening side by side, so there is a handover back and forth of responsibility of developing these items, so we can clearly track our progress. And the same thing happens when we get to goals, which is where we see the most direct feedback from the community committee. So the community committee is going to start by suggesting what they think we should do for the goals, and then it would pass back to the staff committee for feedback and to the leadership team for some drafting. At this point in time, our staff are going to be a little bit overwhelmed, especially on the public service side, because we're getting to the kickoff of summer reading program. So you'll see the leadership team takes a little bit more of an active role to keep things moving forward. But we're starting and listening from the committee, having staff hear that feedback and redraft, go back to the committee for additional feedback, and then ending finally in the board and leadership team creating a final draft. And we were careful to include some time periods where all staff would have a preview and feedback on the final plan before it was presented to the board, and then a final board feedback period as well, with hopefully enough time that everyone would have an opportunity to review and ensure that we're comfortable before this comes before the board for a final adoption resolution. So, I have information about the current steps, but again, I want to be respectful of your time, so I'm going to pause here and ask if you have any questions or anything you'd like to learn more about.
You mentioned an outside resource where it looks like there's a question about that, and so what do you see in terms of that, and what is the plan with regard to that?
And I apologize, I took the graphic that showed specifically how that worked out, so I'm going to go find it here. So the consultant is currently being engaged in phase 2, which is that research period. We're confident that staff can support much of the actual drafting and development. Our leadership team has volunteered to set aside some time to make sure that this happens, because we recognize that long-term planning is a form of leadership. So what we're really relying on the consultant for is broadening our understanding of the community, helping us reach audiences that historically we have struggled to connect with, and then also to help some with the data analysis. When you have your staff members looking over the information that you gather, sometimes you can, have a organizational viewpoint, and so bringing in a fresh perspective to give us some additional insights, specifically around the strategic priorities, would be the goal for that consultant. So deepening community connections, making sure we have broad feedback, and then providing a fresh perspective.
Thank you. Dr. Pelosi?
So I think we previously talked about the homeless outside of the library. Is that population part of that group, of the groups that are hard to reach and that we're going to reach?
In some ways, they're easy to reach because they're in our branches. So we do have a goal of having a patron survey that they could engage with. But we also know that those are members of the community who sometimes feel over-observed, so they're less likely to try and intentionally engage with things that might bring them to people's attention. So that would be one population that they could potentially help with. There's also just our patrons are our patrons and they come to the library, and then there are our patrons who aren't our patrons and aren't coming to the library, and we need to have their input to understand why they don't visit frequently or maybe don't have a library card at all. So a consultant hopefully can help us make some inroads into making some additional connections beyond what we already have to try and pull in some information about how we can be more inviting and inclusive for our entire community.
Also, are we engaging more of the senior population at their places where if they cannot get to the library, we're getting to them?
Sure. So that would potentially be something that we could have the consultant look into. We're proposing that the consultant do at least one meeting at an off-site location for people who couldn't visit branches, and one virtual meeting. And when we do the virtual meeting, there could potentially be an option of trying to engage some locations that might be able to have multiple people join to listen. But the virtual meeting was intentional because we know from our connections in the senior community and in the disability community that coming to a branch into a physical location to give feedback can be challenging. So we tried to include a more inclusive option for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great report. It's very exciting. I think there's a lot of information that was just presented to you very concisely and quickly. And so I want to encourage our board members to, if they have questions, Mackenzie, should they send them to you? How do we give feedback on this?
Sure, yep. So of course, I encourage you to reach out to me directly, and where possible, if you can CC Gregory so he remains in the loop, we can respond to any questions that you have. And it is a lot of content. I spent a lot of time on it, but I'm wide open to feedback and redirection, so I'm really hopeful that you'll give me some great advice.
Looks great. Mr. Biederman, did you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you very much. I know it's pretty dark because I'm sitting in my car in the dark, but but thank you very much for all of that information.
Yeah, I was wondering if you're in the witness protection program. Okay,
Continue on.
yes.
All right, the last
Thank
portion
you.
of the CEO report is a legislative update on SB 32, and that'd be Mr. Mike Williams.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. This will be short and hopefully sweet. I do have a seat on the Indiana Library Federation Legislative Advocacy Committee, so I get lots of wonderful reports from our paid lobbyists, which are folks who work at Taft. The good inside news we got literally on Saturday is that SB 32, Senator Tom's bill, will not be heard in committee. Effectively, that may kill it, but we also know that throughout the legislative session, many times once language has been drafted, it somehow mysteriously and almost magically gets injected back into another bill, sometimes at about 5 till midnight on the last day of the session. So we will continue to be monitoring this very closely. For everybody in the audience, SB 32 would strip Indiana's public libraries of their taxing authority and transfer that authority to some other body. Without direct taxing authority, even though it is reviewed at numerous levels, libraries could not levy a tax, basically property taxes, that allow operation. So it is an attack on the funding structure for public libraries. We're also monitoring 18 other bills. Many of these things have to do with age of users, access to various internet sources. It's a complicated legislative landscape. Our advisors at Taft, again, some of these folks are lawyers, tell us that many of these things would not hold up to a constitutional test regarding material available to minors, etc. But some legislators just love to file bills because that helps in their primary election. So we are watching these things carefully, but SB 32 was the most direct attack on public library works. So we're in better shape than we were on Friday. That's the report.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and we'll look forward to hearing from you as we, these next couple of months during session.
Yes.
Just to keep us in the loop.
It's a short session, but a lot of things can happen in short sessions in short order.
Yep.
So this is one where you got to keep your eye on the ball because it bounces quickly.
Thank you, Mike. All right, and that concludes the CEO report.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Great report, great updates.
Thank you.
Really well done. We want to move forward to new business. And we have, it's item number 12, it's resolution number 10, related to correction of room rental rates included in the 2024 annual resolution. And I'll ask Library Counsel Russell Brown to discuss.
Yeah, this is just a situation where for the annual resolution, I went back and pulled the incorrect room rental rates from previous year, and so I had unintentionally included an incorrect room rental rate for 2 rooms available at Central. So this is a corrective resolution, and then you have a revised hard copy in front of you that has the correct data in it. So that would be the the resolution that I would request that you review and approve this evening.
And just for clarification, which rooms were
It
there?
was
the
East,
rates?
it was East Garden and the Simon Reading Room.
Okay.
So I believe that Angie has attached for you what would be a corrected room rental, but this would be a corrected annual resolution upon the approval of Resolution 10.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions, Mr. Brown? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 10 to correct the room rental rates in our annual resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Gilbert, please call the roll.
Mr. Lane?
Approved.
Dr. Martada?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approved.
Dr. White?
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble?
Approved.
Thank you.
Biederman's
And
available.
Mr. Biederman.
Mr. Biederman, I'm sorry.
Approve.
We see you.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Future agenda items, this is the time made available for discussion items that are not on the agenda, but which may be of interest to board members. And we give the opportunities to suggest items to be included on future board meeting agendas. Are there any suggestions for our meeting next month?
Yes, President Tribble. I got an email from the Community Advisory Board for the Encyclopedia of Indianapolis about some changes happening within the leadership of the encyclopedia. So I was hoping that we can invite the Community Advisory Board to come to February's board meeting to discuss what's going on with the encyclopedia.
Okay, we'll check in with our CEO and see about the timing on that. We definitely appreciate that. Are there any others? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. The next meeting of the board is not on my, here it is, sorry, February 26th. And at that board meeting, we are going to be focused on Garfield Park Branch, but because there is no meeting room there, we will hold the meeting at the Library Services Center. So we'll have to figure out a way to bring in some props or something to help us
in the
fill up with it.
conservatory or something, right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm up for it, but I think that's at this point what the administration recommends, and so we will go with that. It is something to think about in terms of being able to gather at all of our libraries. And so as we start looking at our facilities and even the question that was raised here tonight by the branch managers, we should certainly keep that in mind. So Monday, February 26th, at the Library Services Center for Garfield Park. There being no other business before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The second.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. There's one more to sign here.